Hey guys, Ken Smith Fishing. For all you guys who walk up and say, man, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I just recorded this entire video, started editing it, and deleted it. That's so frustrating. This takes so much time sometimes when it really shouldn't. Anyway, so this week we will be headed down to the lake tomorrow, which will be Saturday. We're going to fish hopefully Sunday through the week. As much as we possibly can. It'll be the most I've ever practiced for a BFL. So you would think I could figure something out. I do hear it's tough. Talked to 3 or 4 different guys today, 3 different guys on the water who all struggled. Actually didn't catch many fish. So I think it's probably one of those deals where the fish are going, wait a minute, it gets dark really early. It's wintertime. Was the water 62 degrees? So some guys are struggling. I'm sure there's guys whacking on them, but some guys are struggling right now. So. And then don't forget next Sunday, so it'll be the first Sunday of 2020. It'd be a great chance to fish your first tournament if you don't fish the BFL. The Outlaw Outdoors Sweet 16 tournament. So if you never fished an Outlaw Outdoors tournament, no membership fee, which is awesome. You don't have to spend 35 bucks a head to join it, or 75 bucks a head like FLW. You just show up, pay your entry fee. If you catch 16 pounds, you get a check. Pretty cool. Trailer's allowed, so it's a neat deal. So no matter what the weather, you can go fish where you want to go fish. And Clint and Stacy, who run Outlaw, well, Stacy's nice. Clint, he does what he's told, but nonetheless. So we will be there. I'm hoping to get to fish with my buddy, 2 of the last 3 year BFL Cowboy points leader, Tommy Mackey. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's the 2 tournaments that are upcoming. My purpose today, and by the way, we've also got, we're going to do a lot of filming during the week. We're going to finish that second part I told you. So I did the video right here a week or 2 ago talking about rattle baits. And specifically, we talked about the Quake series and the Snatch series from 6 Cents. And I told you we were going to talk about kind of everybody else's baits and the differences. I want to get with 2, I hope, rattle bait hammers down at Rayburn this next week and sit down and talk to them about all the different baits in their arsenal and how and when they deploy those baits in that arsenal. So that should be really interesting. I also, since we posted some videos of catching some A-rig fish in the last couple of weeks, got a lot of questions about what my A-rig setup is. So I posted that video right there. If you're watching that on YouTube, there's an eye right there and you can click on that eye. It'll take you to a video I shot about a year ago right now. This is prime A-rig time, talking about my setup. And my setup continues to be almost 8 foot long Lew's rod. It's called the Super Duty 3. And matter of fact, I'm trying to remember to measure this. One of the keys for me on an A-rig rod is the amount of rod between the butt of the rod and the reel seat, where the reel sets up. Because the way you throw that rod, it's very much like surf casting, right? You grab the bottom, you grab the top, and you wing that thing because it weighs, probably way more than an ounce. In some cases, probably 2 or 3 ounces, according to how big a head you got on there. So you need a rod that's got a lot of handle on the bottom end, which is what that Super Duty 3 rod does. I love the way it loads. It's a parabolic bend rod, so it doesn't snap load, which means you don't get backlashes like you do on a snap load rod. So a rod that loads closer to the tip. So basically, think about it this way. When you throw that thing, you want to roll cast it, right? You want a rod that loads and releases slowly. Because if you don't, it's just like stomping on the gas on a real high horsepower engine. It just spins the tires, and spinning the tires on a bass reel means getting a backlash. And the reel, to me, is the key to the whole thing. I've talked about this a bunch. I throw a Super Duty extra wide spool reel so I can put a ton of 20-pound line on there. But the key to it, to me, is I have a reel specifically for this purpose. It is a 5.1 to 1 reel ratio. 5.4 to 1 works just as well. It helps a couple of things, a lot less arm and wrist and forearm fatigue, but it also helps you keep that bait down in the water column. You start getting bites and that reel speed starts picking up, and that bait, because all those spinners and baits will drift up that water column, next thing you know, you're throwing it out there in 25 feet of water and fishing it 3 feet deep. You've got to have a slow reel, or at least I do. It helps me when I'm slow rolling that bait to really keep that bait down in the water column. The only change I've made from that video is I am now throwing Cigar Tatsu line. So Tatsu is their top of the line fluorocarbon line. By the way, I've seen several posts specifically on the fishing forum the other day. A guy asked what everybody's using for A-rig setups. I have fished next to a guy throwing braid, and I get 3, 4, 5 bites to every one he does. I got a buddy in Arkansas that's an A-rig hammer, and his belief, and he's kind of got me believing this too, that line, that braided line, makes a noise coming through the water. It's just a disturbance that's just a little bit more than what those fish are comfortable with. And I throw 20-pound Tatsu. That line is the diameter of 17-pound Invisex, and it's a little more supple, so it really comes off the spool beautifully, and it's really, really strong. So that's the only change I made in the last year. So I'm posting this video because I've had multiple guys. My purpose of posting this video is to talk about the state of fishing, tournament fishing, and specifically the Major League Fishing purchase of FLW. And I've been a proponent of it, I guess, because I felt like there was some problems going on, and I think specifically in the sales department, truthfully, at FLW. They raised their entry fees. As you guys know, I talked about last year why I didn't fish the Costas last year. They raised their entry fees for the second time in a 3 or 4 year period and didn't increase their payout. So I just felt like they weren't treating me as a customer, and I made the decision to do the only thing I could do in the form of protest, which was not fish them. I decided not to fish them again in 2020 just because there's a lot of uncertainty. But you know, if they get this going the right way, which it kind of feels like they are, I'll be back fishing them, assuming they still want me after this video. But there's some things that have bothered me, 2 things that have bothered me a fair amount. The first one was the young man who won the TBF Living the Dream package. So the TBF is 30,000 strong anglers, and the guy that wins the Boater Division Championship every year wins a package where he gets a use of a truck and a boat, all of his FLW Tour entry fees paid, and a stipend for traveling money. And when MLF bought FLW, they came out and said they were not going to honor that, quietly. And the guy created a ruckus. TBF, by the way, said all along they were going to pay their share. And they've crawfished on that, thankfully. And they're going to pay, they being Major League Fishing and FLW, and that guy's going to get to fish the tour next year. So congratulations. The other one is, if you've not heard any of this, there's a guy named Travis Mason who has an extremely good YouTube channel called Smallmouth Crush. He's in the Northeast. He's a professional guide. He was on the Elite Series, and now he fishes mostly just, I think, Costas and BFLs, and he's a hammer up there. And he's also got great videos. I love watching smallmouth fishing. I'd love to be able to do more smallmouth fishing. But he was one of 12 guys that through the Costa last year qualified to fish the Forest Wood Cup. And when the Forest Wood Cup went away, they said, yeah, sorry, you're not going to get to do that, and we're not going to let you fish anything else. Now, if you don't know what that means to him and those other 11 guys, going to the Forest Wood Cup, besides the prestige of going to the Forest Wood Cup and probably a way to pick up some sponsors, there's a minimum $10,000 check there, and there's a potential $300,000, or at least last year there was a potential $300,000 check there. And Travis sent a nice letter to FLW, an email, and said, hey, you know, what are you going to do here? And they said, nothing. We're not giving you anything. And then they had the audacity to turn around and say, do you want to fish the tour next year? And he respectfully declined. He has, if you go to his Facebook page, he had a petition out there. I've signed it, trying to get Major League Fishing to FLW to at least compensate them in some form, and I don't think it should be $10,000. I think it should be more than that because of what they put these guys through and the promise that was made. Look, our business was purchased a couple of years ago. I understand how mergers happen. I've had lots of clients who have sold their business and lots of clients who have bought businesses. If you're going to tell me, FLW, MLF, that I, as a tournament angler, or your customer, you need to treat me the way you'd want a customer to be treated. And you're not doing that to these guys. And that, to me, sets a very, very, very poor precedent of how you're going to treat me in the future when you make a promise to me and you decide to change your mind, whether it's you or somebody else. Look, I know MLF didn't make this promise, but the FLW staff is still there. Kathy Fennell's still there. Bill Taylor's still there. You guys need to make this right for those guys. That's just my opinion. There's a good conversation with Travis on Luke Duncan's podcast. If you've not seen that, you might want to listen in. And there's some really interesting stuff on Luke's podcast about some stuff Major League Fishing FLW tried to pull with him with his employer. And if you want to go investigate that, you can go listen to that. So I think, by the way, again, I am a fan of this change. I just want everybody, I want to see everybody be treated fairly and us to be treated as their customer. So what I am pretty frustrated about is, so I am a week away today, this is Saturday, from my first BFL on Rayburn. And there's no contingency prizes announced. So I called my tournament director and said, I said, what are the contingency prizes? He said, we don't know. And I said, what do you mean you don't know? And he goes, Phoenix hasn't announced it yet. They're waiting for Ranger. And I'm like, they're waiting for Ranger? I thought they were the title sponsor going forward. So above my pay grade as to what's going on, but it seems like with, just a few days left, we ought to at least know for Phoenix owners what the Phoenix contingency prizes are, and for Ranger owners if there's going to be Ranger Cup money, which I think there is. It's my sense from talking to a couple of people in the industry that know. And it may actually have even gone up a little bit as sort of them throwing their nose to MLF, FLW, but we'll see. It's not going to be through FLW, Major League Fishing, which is fine. I mean, it shouldn't be. They're not a sponsor, but it seems to me that with a week left, Phoenix should have announced their contingency prizes, but they haven't. So I'm hoping that happens really early next week, which next week's a really weird week because, you got a couple of days of holiday right in the middle of the week. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Now, I do think there are some challenges going on for Major League Fishing. If you know Randall Tharp, he's he's a professional fisherman that's on the Major League Fishing Tour. He posted an article in the last couple of weeks, I believe it's on Bass Zone, where he talks about the fact that he's had a tough off season with his sponsors. And his quote, I wrote it down. His quote is, the fishing industry doesn't like what we have going on. That sounds to me like some of his sponsors said, yeah, we're not digging what's going on in MLF. It's not a format I enjoy, the however many fish you can catch in a day, pound fish or bigger counts. But I will say this, they shouldn't be making a circuit for me. I'm 57 years old. I've probably got, if it's Rick Klein, I got 20 more years of tournament fishing, but they should be appealing to the young guys, and they are. So I've emceed, along with Clint from Outlaw Outdoors, a Bassmaster College regional or qualifier here in Texas last year. And one of the questions I asked the kids coming across the stage, I asked somewhere between 10 and 12 of them, if you get home tonight and you have an Elite Series event on your DVR, a Bassmaster Elite Series, a Major League Fishing, and an FLW Tour event, all recorded, which one are you going to watch first? And all but one of those young men and women said, I'm going to watch Major League Fishing first. So they've got an appeal. Tim Horton also was on Luke Duncan's podcast this week, and he talks about their Nielsen ratings. And if I remember the numbers right, he stated that in the week they were looking at, or at some time period they were looking at, they had 2 times the viewers, or close to 2 times the viewers that Bassmasters does. So they're capturing an audience out there. I want them to do good. Look, I want them to bring sponsor money in. I hate that they lost Ranger, but I understand they pressured Ranger for more money because they want more money. That's probably some of what we needed to have happen, right? That's probably why FLW was in trouble. They weren't getting sponsor dollars. They weren't getting non-endemic dollars anymore. And these guys have got a formula that's working for them. So I think they're probably pretty hard-nosed, but I think that's probably what's going to happen for this industry to grow. And for, let me rephrase that, for the payouts to grow. How about that? So I'm a fan. I want to see you guys succeed, but I also want you to recognize that we, the anglers, are your customers. Until you figure that out, you're going to continue to upset us, and you're going to continue to lose guys. And there's a reason that you have 27 rookies in your FLW tour field this year, because you ticked a lot of guys off. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. But I continue to be a fan of the sport. I am a fan of Bassmasters. I am a fan of FLW. I'm going to watch them all, and I'm going to watch some of them MLF as well. Probably not as much of it, but that's just personal preference. That has nothing to do with that. That's just their format. I don't dig it that much. So there you go. Last thing, shout out to some guys, specifically Brian Latimer and Bradley Hallman in Oklahoma. I know you also decided to jump over. I'm proud that you guys took a stand of something you believe in. You just didn't want to fish this tour. There was something about it. That's cool, and nothing against that tour. Nothing, you know, that's just a decision you guys made. I think it's really, really gutsy to go try to qualify for the Opens. Holy cow, because I think only the top maybe 5 guys from each division get a chance to go to the elites, and it's going to be a shark tank out there, right? You got John Cox, and you got Scott Martin, and you got all these guys jumping over there to try to make it. It's going to be hard to do, and if you don't make it this year, my sense is it gets a lot harder next year, because let's face it, 2 guys paid what I've heard rumored $50,000 to break the contract with MLF, which, by the way, I'm fine with, right? You sign a contract to come fish with us, and you want to break that contract, it's an employment contract. Neither one of them griped about it. Palaniuk or Swindle, neither one. I've listened to both of them in a podcast. Neither one of them griped about it. They said, hey, I did what I had to do. But my sense is there's a lot of guys on the MLF. There are guys, I don't know a lot of guys. I suspect there are guys, I know of 2. I suspect there are guys on the MLF that would like to go back and fish what they were fishing before, but could not stroke a $50,000 or whatever that check actually was. But they've got 1 more year on their contract, which is next year, which means I think a lot of them the following year are really going to be chasing those Opens and those Costas, trying to requalify for these other tours. I predict to you right now that Major League Fishing will put tournaments on top of the Opens, so those guys can't do that. That's just a guess, but that's what I would do if I was running the circuit and didn't want to lose guys. So we'll see what happens there, what shakes out. But that's my 2 cents on it. I think things had to change. I think there are growing pains in any organization that makes the drastic changes these guys have done. They've merged 2 pretty different cultures together, and I think they're trying to do their best. I think they were on a short timeline, which is probably where some of these troubles, the TBF troubles and the guys that qualified from the Costas, I think that's where those troubles came from. And probably also Phoenix not announcing. I suspect they tried, and I don't know this, but I suspect they really tried to keep Ranger. But it came down to dollars and cents, and I get that. I don't have a problem with that at all. So we'll see where this goes. I think it's good news for all of us in the industry at some level. And stay tuned. I hope this is the last video I do, other than me saying, man, what a great BFL event this was, and all the other events we got to fish this year. So we got, on Rayburn in the next couple of weeks, we got the Outlaw Outdoors, and we got a Bass Champs coming up. So I'm really excited to fish Bass Champs again with Kevin this year. So we'll talk more about the Bass Champs and some of the other Bass Champs events coming up as well in my next couple of videos. So stay tuned this week. We got some cool stuff coming. I think you're going to enjoy it.